I'm Georgia Alfredas, and this is a show about investing, about stocks, crypto, and the changing financial world around us.
And I'm Dave Mathews, and this is What's Next Wall Street.
This week, we're talking 5G. I know, you thought that whole 5G issue was all figured out. Well, it's not. We'll discuss. Plus, what's cooler than NFTs? I got what's next on that in consumer trends.
And this week, we dive into the idea of tracking digital artwork sales and how my old employer, Radio Shack, might be back in the blockchain business. What? I mean, I seriously can't make this stuff up.
I'm going to show you all the hot new trending products and services that you probably not only want to buy, and you also use, but maybe you'll want to invest in it as well.
We've got Greg Krause here, lead instructor at OptionsPlayers.com, to help us learn the fundamentals of those companies to make you an informed trader. He's got thoughts and opinions on where the charts and indicators say a particular stock might be going.
So what we want to do is help you create a tailored trade plan that's going to keep you up to speed with what's next on Wall Street, so that all you got to do is stack your gains. It's easy to do.
You can email us at WNW@OptionsPlayers.com or hit us up on social media at What's Next Wall Street with your questions. You can also, if we can't answer these questions, we can direct them over to instructors over at Options Players who dig into those trading fundamentals.
That's right. So listen, here's the deal. You can also watch this show, any episode, go back and look at some old ones, look at some new ones on Options Players YouTube channel, or you can listen on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcast. So, Dave, aerospace giants Boeing and Airbus are urging the Biden administration to delay deployment of new 5G wireless service planned for the first of the year. Now, the company CEOs recently sent a letter to Transportation Secretary Pete Buttigieg asking him to support a postponement of AT&T and Verizon's 5G rollout. They say the deployment scheduled for January 5th could harm aviation safety. What? The aviation industry and the FAA have expressed concerns that 5G could interfere with sensitive aircraft electronics, especially. It could possibly result in flights being diverted. Listen, I thought this whole 5G thing wasn't going to be such a big deal. Dave, I distinctly remember you easing my mind about this on an earlier show, if y'all go back and watch one. Now, what do you know? Who are you protecting? Give up the goods, Dave.
All right, remember when you'd be on a flight that was landing and you start hearing everyone's phones beeping as they began to receive text messages? Well, back in the day, I used to put my BlackBerry between the window shade and the plane's inner window just so I could receive signal. Now, BBM, the BlackBerry Messenger, communicated at 800 megahertz, which was basically your old cordless phone frequency, and they could go long distances. Okay. So a signal reaching a plane at 30,000 feet, that was easy. Now, your smartphone today mostly communicates around 2 gigahertz, which, because the wavelength is shorter, it doesn't travel quite as far. So by the way, this is a chart of all the wireless frequencies in the back and behind us here, and it just shows you the radio spectrum. Now, 5G signals from your phone aren't going to take down a plane, but what it has to do with is your cell phone provider's base stations interfering with ground radar that airplanes use. But what's old is new, as hospitals had this exact problem with blood pressure monitoring devices when HD TV signals were launched.
So that was way back in 1998. We were 7.
Yeah, we were definitely 7. You see, the FCC controls radio waves and the FAA controls airspace, both of which are limited resources. So as more digital devices come online, they compete for adjoining radio pathways, and some can have bleed over and also what's called harmonics in the system. So, just like notes on a piano cause other strings to vibrate. So we're all fighting for this, radio space, airspace, it's all the same, but we're going to get it figured out.
Okay, Dave, I love this part of the show because this is where we get to hear from you. You can always hit us up on social media at What's Next Wall Street. Email us at WNW@OptionsPlayers.com or ask your question in the comments section on our YouTube page, which is actually what John Edward did. Hey, by the way, when you guys make comments or ask questions on YouTube, let us know what city you're repping. That means where you're from.
Where you're from.
And you didn't know that, Dave. Stop playing. Okay, back to John. John wants to know, he asked, what's your outlook for DocuSign for the next 12 months? Help us out, Greg. What's DocuSign?
DocuSign?
DocuSign. I was like, documents.
Yeah, it's just a ticker for DocuSign.
When we don't have meetings, we have to send digital things to have people sign.
Of course, during COVID, probably a lot more business has been doing DocuSign. I believe, mortgages over a decade ago, I DocuSign things.
Yeah.
So it's been around. But like everything, the market just went crazy. And then all these things that were
virtualized,
let's just say we thought would just grow crazy during the pandemic. And it did. I had to actually look at this, by the way, because I don't track DocuSign.
We finally stumped the
Yeah,
chump.
got it.
Yeah,
I
normally
did.
Greg, by the way,
But I
tracks
did
everything.
read the script about
Ah.
15 minutes ago, so I pulled up the chart, and and then I read some of the news and some of what the analysts said. Of course, the analysts all said, yeah, it's going to go down like 10 days after it went down, so you got what I'm saying. But it went down basically because of the poor guidance, right? So it was about $70 per share going in February 2020. Let's just say that's when the
So 10 months ago,
started.
70.
2020. So
2020,
2
so a
years
year
ago.
ago.
So
Okay.
COVID
pre-COVID.
started, right? So yeah. So right when COVID started. And then it went all the way up to like 310.
Wow.
Right? So that's about 350% gains right there. That's a little excessive. So, and everybody's like, oh, it's just going to continue to grow. I do think DocuSign or that.
There's some industries that we won't go back to paper because of the convenience of digital.
Now, what is that growth? And that's what, everybody's like, oh, DocuSign's going to do it all now. Well, that's not how things work. And just in any type of economics, you have something that has a lot of supply or a lot of demand. What's going to happen?
You need all the supply.
People are going to come in
Yeah.
and get
Competition.
and supply, are going to provide that supply.
Sure.
And it's kind of how a regular sector works, right? You have those individuals that are stable and they're in there and they start, right? That early, but then you got people that come in, those copycats.
Yeah.
And they're going to eat away at it. And I think, although I would have to look further in to see the business of what all contracts DocuSign has. But do I think DocuSign can outbeat a Google? Just think about it. What's going to happen when Google or Amazon say, hey, we have our own, use this, it's free.
I think the biggest threat would be
Yeah.
Microsoft. If it was
And
built
mi-
into
yeah.
Microsoft Word, where you could do digital signatures,
I'm
then
sure
it's
they
game
already
over
have
for
it.
DocuSign.
They already have it. But, you have all these people. So although the market share is growing,
Anybody can do
is
that.
DocuSign grabbing much more? And to grab that is going to cost more, right? So, so I think it just comes out to they gave poor guidance, and then it dropped hard. It went down to about. Look, it's about 40 to 45% when I was looking at. So it went from like 300 to 140.
Okay.
So the outlook on that, though, this is the thing. Do I think a DocuSign tech like that will continue to grow? Of course.
But probably at a lesser pace than what we saw
yeah.
during the initial COVID.
And normally when I'm looking to invest, if you're going to invest in a company that is already the leader in that sector, all right, those normally don't just shoot up crazy, right? You want to get the ones that have the potential normally. So if you're trying to go into one that's got a lot, Apple's got a lot, and they're continuing to grow, and they can expand. I don't know how DocuSign expands horizontally.
Yeah,
right?
even their name is.
Yeah.
It's that. So
We
what
do
do you
one
want
thing.
Yeah.
That's it. We do it.
Yeah.
Hella well.
So I don't really see how they're going to expand, and then how are they going to charge? So if they charge like a Zillow or something, oh, you can use DocuSign. If they charge Zillow too much money, Zillow's just going to make their own. It's
Right.
not that hard to code. There's probably free open source everywhere they can
Yeah,
put in their
Zillow
own
sign.
website.
It's amazing. It's
Yeah.
it's taken over the world.
So it is what it is.
Okay.
Outlook, I'm not going to give you a price point. I don't, but it's already dropped. So, I mean, it's probably not as bad as some that
I think
are
you're
still
saying
up there.
sell.
Yeah.
No, I'm not saying sell. I'm
Maybe saying
you're
buy.
already, if you had it pre-pandemic, you're still up 100%.
Yeah.
Do what you want to
Oh,
do.
good point. Yeah.
If you bought it post-pandemic, if you bought it last month,
Yeah.
That's that end of the year
you
loss. that
you
might
lost
need.
42%, and are you going to get that back? You might. It just might take a
could take
decade
years,
or two.
Wow.
So
All
it
right.
is what it is. I would have to get. It's hurting. I mean, it just dropped a lot. Bad guidance. But I don't always. You know me. I'm that pessimist that don't trust anyone. Right. That's just me.
Yeah.
So whenever someone gives poor guidance and they've been doing pretty good. In the back of my head, I'm always like, okay, so why did they give poor guidance? Are they are they lying to buy back my shares or something? You know, I'm always looking for that
I
angle.
need to take you with me to buy cars.
Yeah, so I'm not saying they're doing that. It's just always in the back of my head, and I haven't done the research into that. So, yeah, sorry, man, I can't help you out on whether to buy or sell it. Just
Greg's smart because he said follow the money, so he's trying to figure out why something's happening. Okay, our next email comes from Brian Howard, who asks, how many different trading accounts should I have? Currently, I just use one for all types for both short and long term. Well, one way to stack great gains while not being easily distracted is to have multiple accounts so you can have different trade plans organized within similar groups. For example, at Options Players, we preach having a long-term account, a swing trade account, and short-term trading account. Now, this will help mentally organize plays and also keep you from allowing one play to influence another play's plan. The little things go a big way in this game. So try this tip and let us know how it goes. If you've got a question, we can answer it or find someone else in the room who can. So hit us up on social media at What's Next Wall Street or email us at WNW@OptionsPlayers.com with your questions. All right, so at Art Basel, I spent some time with the three co-founders of Trove, which is a combination of QR codes, NFC tags, and links to the blockchain that let artists engage with their collectors and keep tabs on their artwork as it's sold subsequent times outside of their initial drop. So with that, welcome to the program, David Summers, E. Lee, and my new interactive artist friend, Jonathan Michael Johnson, or as he likes to call himself, JJ. Now, JJ, I met you at Wynwood as you were showing this breathing guitar string interactive LED piece, which looked like it could have come out of a Hollywood movie. And since I'm into LEDs, I had to stop and talk to you. What is this thing?
Oh, Dave, so much fun to show this work there and to hang out with you. It's my attempt to connect nature and technology in a way that feels balanced, looking to find an interaction between a human and a robot that feels like it's natural. And my hope was to look at a lot of different connections in nature and different connections in man-made stuff and find harmony. And it's funny, that's what we're doing with this project with Trove ID, where we're trying to connect the digital and the physical. So it all comes back together in a way.
Yeah, and it's the organic nature of it, I think, really spoke to a lot of people that walked by, and the fact that when they came up to your piece, which I see it over your left shoulder there in the background, as people would come up to it, it would respond to them. But yeah, you just talked about Trove. What got you into this collaboration? How'd you guys meet? Give us a little story on that.
Oh man, this is my friend and artist colleague, E. Lee. We've been working together for a good 10 years now, building a lot of different projects. His forte is two-dimensional work. Me as a sculptor and him as a pop artist don't have a lot of overlap. And it made for a real interesting combination when we made his two-dimensional coins into three-dimensional sculptures. Our hope was to make them work a lot like real money. So they'd be digitally transferable and physically transferable. We didn't know how to do this. I should let Eric tell you a little bit more about this project.
Yeah, so these are conceptual pieces, and we're trying to make something that was digital and physical that felt like a unit of value. And how do we transfer this thing over time to different people? How do you create value? Part of that is being able to play a game with other people that is beneficial to everybody. So yeah, we started this project that was, I don't know, a hope that we could find something. How do we make this thing digital was the question. I kind of ran into David Summers in a project that we were working on starting in February. And I asked him the question, since he was an app developer, how might we do this? And I was surprised to hear that he could blockchain. He knew how to do this. So that upped the game, and we just started a company thanks to him and have been moving forward ever since.
Well, that's a perfect segue, because security in art, it's been a difficult task. X-raying works of art to see layers or styles of painting. It's been a tactic to verify authenticity. So, David, this one's for you. How do you guys, using the blockchain, enable this digital authenticity?
Right. So the first thing we do is we make it easy to see what happened in the past. So through advanced encryption techniques, the blockchain and all that, we make it so you can't rewrite the history. So you can store information about the art that will help you verify the art. So you mentioned X-rays and stuff. You need the X-ray beforehand so you can compare it to the X-ray afterwards to verify that they're the same. And so that's the kind of thing you can store in our blockchain. It also has a chain of custody for the art, and it makes the art less valuable to steal because it'll be harder to resell because the art itself will tell you whether it was stolen or not.
All right,
So that's sort of how we do it.
good. Now, will you guys have a storefront like OpenSea does or Etsy does for products? Do you guys have your own version of that?
We have a marketplace, and it's kind of, I would say, maybe a combination of the two. Etsy is physical things that people have made, and you can look through it and buy something you want, and they ship it to you. This would be similar in that way, but it's also, along with that, you would get a digital NFT with that transfer, and that it's kind of like OpenSea in that you'd be able to see how much things sold for, who it went to, where they are.
That's cool. So when I buy art, I feel it's like a black box of negotiation, right? I have to deal with the gallery but I want the artist to make the money. How do you guys enable transparency between artists, galleries, and collectors?
The big thing is just making sure that information is used and seen. So as long as it is transparent and everybody can see the history, the price, who owns it, then it's putting everybody on an equal playing ground. Whereas galleries used to be the only ones that knew any of this information. It gave them a lot of power a lot of them abused the power of that to sell things for whatever they wanted to people, to keep people out of it from buying. They get to choose who bought. Anyway, galleries are important, and we want to have them in our ecosystem as well. A lot of NFT platforms aren't doing that, so that's one way we might be different as well. They offer a lot of value in creating communities around art. So
yeah, and the discovery, right? I love walking in galleries and discovering artists or types of art. Now, as a crappy artist myself, I'd love to hone my craft so that I can get royalties as my stuff is sold between collectors. Does NFT publishing of titles enable this? Like, can this be like a subscription service if I'm an artist?
Yeah, that's the idea that we're running with. You specifically would need demand for your work for this to take place. It's not going to create a sudden influx of customers to you, but the nature of our service, we're hoping that we can take the best parts of the NFT platform, where we've got the history, the price, and the ownership, the provenance. We take all of that and we put it in a way that helps everybody make a better decision. I think you were saying earlier today that the way it works.
Well, let's do this. Give us, I loved seeing the piece and the digital aspect. Like, that's what we live and breathe here at What's Next Wall Street. Give us your view. Like, when you and I are hanging out in Miami in 2030, what's the view of your system? What's the big vision?
We want to build community. Oh, go ahead. No, go ahead. I think it was.
No, JJ, you go for it.
Thanks, Dave. We want to have a community that you have worked with and you've met through Trove ID, that when you go to Basel in 2030, you can meet these folks in person and you can engage in ways that you just couldn't before. Putting the collectors, the artists, and the galleries in the same playing field and give everyone the opportunity to collaborate in new ways.
I think you're spot on with this, because look what's happened with the Bored Ape Yacht Club. They just beat the CryptoPunks as far as volume sold, and the BAYC group is all about community. I call it the virtualized Soho House, right? You've got, every city has a place for artists to go hang out and be those birds of a feather together, but now they can bring their fans in as well. And with that community aspect here, I think you guys are spot on. So, hey, thanks for being a part of our show. And we'll be tracking Trove as you move into greater expanses with your art and the digital NFT world behind it. So I appreciate you coming on the show with us, guys.
Cool.
Thank you very much.
Thanks,
Thank
Dave.
you.
All right, Dave. So you met some really cool folks at Art Basel in Miami, as we just saw. Seems like the new theme was definitely NFTs.
It definitely was the buzzword of the show. It kind of felt like how South by Southwest had Interactive, which was a show within South by Southwest. Now, that event started as a music conference and then became a place where Twitter was launched. Now, what's most interesting to me about NFTs are the membership club aspects. You know, like American Express coined, membership has its privileges, and now we've got those cool lounges at airports.
Cool.
Now, we've actually seen this with NFTs like the Bored Ape Yacht Club. They're becoming like a new Soho House, albeit without the house and the pretentiousness.
Right, right. So speaking of South by Southwest, next year's festival is literally hosting on-site NFT workshops and minting the first South by Southwest NFT. Not to be undone, can you smell what the WWE is cooking? NFT
smells
collectibles,
gross.
obviously. The coolest part about NFTs, though, is that individuals are creating NFTs and becoming overnight millionaires. Brian Armstrong, CEO of Coinbase, has said that NFT market could surpass their cryptocurrency business.
It's all speculation right now, though. So did you see former Twitter CEO, now head Block, to innuendo his former Square name to be more like blockchain?
Yeah.
So Jack Dorsey and Cardi B's recent Twitter conversation was pretty interesting.
Yeah.
Dorsey replied to Cardi that BTC is going to replace the US dollar.
Yeah. Dorsey thinks Bitcoin is going to unite a deeply divided country and eventually the world. Now, that's a quote. Maybe it's true. NFTs can be music, videos, art, anything that is one of a kind. And people are obsessed. Did you see this? NFT fans went nuts for this Endless Karl Lagerfeld digital fashion collabo. Endless is a London-based street artist who created this live art performance as like a tribute to Lagerfeld in Florence, Italy, a few months after he died back in 2019. So there were only 7 of the more exclusive versions, which sold at 777 euros, and those promptly sold out. The number 7, of course, is a nod to Lagerfeld's lucky number. And those lucky enough to grab the exclusive NFTs are also invited to an exclusive cocktail party featuring an art performance by Endless. That performance is, by the way, real life, not an NFT. To your earlier point, Dave. So the exclusivity of not only the NFT, but events like the party is what I think the whole NFT genre is going to eventually morph into. I mean, it's hard for me to wrap my Gen X brain around buying an NFT, but buying an NFT along with some exclusive event is a lot more attractive to me. So what say y'all? I mean, will or can NFTs continue to function as these digital assets, or is it going to have to be or have more? Like, it seems to be doing pretty well without it, but I'm just asking. I mean, do you think it's going to need more?
I think it's pretty funny to have a posthumous NFT. It's just getting weird out there. But I always say artists' works are more valuable when they're dead. Speaking of dead, 2 of my friends sent me to the Radio Shack website this week. They once had 7,000 stores when I worked there in the 2000s as one of their in-house inventors. Well, now their new owner, Ty Lopez, and his partner, Alex Murr, are converting that brand that sold electronic bits into a spin of the Atlas Universal Stored Value token into radio. So when I was there, the company tagline used to be, if you've got questions, we've got answers.
Hey, we stole that.
I guess they're spinning that into a more modernized mission to be the first protocol to bridge the gap in mainstream usage of DeFi, or decentralized finance. Have I mentioned I can't make this stuff up?
This is crazy, but I'll tell you something. You know, I'm an actress.
You really are. She's legit. I'm
So,
fake.
But here's the thing. If you didn't do one Radio Shack a year, then you just weren't doing anything. And the best thing about it is you knew you were going to get paid in 2 weeks. So they were like the best commercials to get. But you knew you were going to get one Radio Shack commercial or one print job at least a year. And that was kind of guaranteed.
That's
If you
cool.
could read a teleprompter, or if you could, you know, if you looked halfway decent, you're like, at least I got that Radio Shack
And did you get your
commercial.
kids in the commercials too?
No, not Radio Shack. Huh?
Hiring too many actors
That
and
probably
actresses.
is why they went bankrupt.
I mean,
but
how did a company that focused on tech go
Well-
bankrupt during the tech surge.
So I can tell you why.
Wow.
So I was hired there in 2002, and I would lasted till 2004. They weren't innovating fast enough. Like when I was there, we brought in elbow HDMI cords because people wanted to put flat panel TVs on the wall, but the connectors went straight in the back, right? So they didn't have satellite radio, they didn't have satellite TV. So we brought all these digital things to that universe. The thing that was interesting though now, think about Radio Shack had 7,200 stores within 5 minutes or 5 miles of people's house, but their average ticket, their ARPU, their average revenue per user, or per, that's a term that cell phone providers use, but they were only selling $30 worth of items. So you just can't keep all that infrastructure and the supply chain alive for $30 an item. So what did they do? They sold cell phones. So
Yeah,
they
I
did
remember that.
Sprint cell phones and Verizon cell phones. And now look what's on every corner. It's cell phone stores. So instead of the cell phone providers paying Radio Shack $325 per add-on per customer, now the cell phone stores said we're going to keep that money ourselves, and that's why you can't buy resistors and transistors, because the cell phone economy ruined it for us.
So Radio Shack was the first tech thing. So that was one, and then because it couldn't grow, it went bankrupt or it just died out. That's Bitcoin.
Whoa.
Oh,
well, okay, so to that point, look, India and China have both banned
Yeah.
the transactions. Elon said that he's not going to sell cars anymore with Bitcoin because it takes too much power. So what I'm really interested in, and the Ether gas fees, they're through the roof right now.
But Ether can change, right? Because
That's
they
right.
can actually change it and go. Like, they're already planning on it. In like a year, they're
the
going to
fork.
go. So when they do their fork, it's no longer going to be the work. Are they going stake? Or,
They're going proof of stake, and I registered DaveMathews.eth, and as I refreshed the page, the price changed from like $400 to $100 based upon the gas fees. So I just waited until early in the morning when U.S. time when the gas was low, and I registered the domain for 10 years for $100 instead of $400.
But then now Bitcoin can't change theirs.
That's right.
So they're stuck in that work. Now I'm not going to say Bitcoin is in a bubble or anything like that. It's just will it replace the dollar? First off, no, because the government's not going to allow anything it can't control to replace it. I'm just going to let you know that. Unless there's going to be a whole overthrow of the government, it's not going to replace.
Wait,
Well, there was that
was a
January
year
6th.
ago,
So
right?
I don't,
Well, that's
I mean, it's
whatever.
possible.
Yeah, so overthrow the government. Hey, that's hilarious.
That's
But
just Congress.
That's hilarious.
No big deal.
it is what it is. But yeah, I mean, that's. I think Ethereum will probably one day completely outdo Bitcoin, and because it actually has a practical purpose
And
can do a lot of
the
stuff.
idea of smart contracts being, and that's why Ether is behind the NFT movement right now, because of this idea of a smart contract. So essentially what they did is put database functionality and legs onto a value. And I think it's really clever. Hey,
So-
that's the end of our show
I was just
tonight.
saying, can we get back to Radio Shack? Because I really need to see if they're coming back so I can know if I'm going to have at least 2 commercials a year.
No, they're not coming back. And Dogecoin is not coming
Dogecoin's
back. That teleprompter guy just needs to stick
We
with what
told
he
you to
does
be
best.
quiet, dude.
Hey, we want to thank lead instructor at Options Players, Greg Kraus, for being here
Yes.
tonight and helping us through these tough questions.
Yes, remember, if you've got questions, we've got answers. Listen, they can't sue us for that, can they?
No, not
anyway,
anymore.
we'd love to hear from you. Email us at www.optionsplayers.com or hit us up on social media at What's Next Wall Street.
You can, of course, watch episodes of What's Next Wall Street on the Options Players YouTube page or listen on Spotify, Apple, or wherever you get your podcast. I'm Dave Mathews, and I
I'm
love my Lambretta.
Georgia Alfredas. We will see you next time on we're really next year
Next year.
on What's Next Wall Street.
22,
so, yeah.
yo. No
So
more
happy
COVID.
New Year.
Happy New Year, everybody.